This is JILLIANA Ranicar-Breese, and this is part 2 of my interview with Malcolm Palle. Malcolm, tell me about your previous life.
All
those years ago.
Yeah, I think I went. My first job was in tourism. My brother-in-law was a travel agent, and it was kind of a natural place for me to go. My brother-in-law wanted me to, or he was quite a big influence in my life, early life, because my father passed away when I was 16, and throughout school I didn't really have an idea what I wanted to do. My mother wanted me to be an accountant, and it was something that was supported by my whole family, but I didn't really have an aptitude for maths. I wasn't great at it. I mean, and also I didn't understand what accountancy was all about. I did do a work training sort of thing with a firm of accountants. I found it rather dull, but I did it, and just to keep everyone happy, and also to earn a few bob during the summer holidays. But
you could have cooked the books.
Yeah, I wasn't really that way. I didn't even know enough about the books or why people kept books for that matter at that stage. So I wasn't sort of brought up in a very disciplined business environment. My father was a shopkeeper. He had a market stall, and it was very.
Well, that sounded fun.
Yeah, it was. It was. It was. I mean, I say it was. It was hard work for him, and it was famine or feast. Sometimes he had a good day, had a good week, had a good year, and sometimes he didn't. And it was. We lived not hand to mouth as some people do, but it was very, very. There wasn't a lot of security around the business. He wasn't building a business to grow.
Yeah.
It was really just about surviving, really.
In the moment.
Yeah. But when it came to me leaving school and going on to further education, I went to Southampton Polytechnic, which is now Southbank University, but I did a business studies course and didn't really see it through, just because I found that I had a part-time job in a shoe shop which paid me quite well. It was in Bond Street, and I
upmarket.
Very upmarket.
Which shoe shop?
It's called Pinay, F. Pinay.
Oh yes, I've heard of it. Yes.
So it was been there for
on Bond
ages,
Street, wasn't it?
That's right. And I used to earn a lot of money there. Work
on commission as well.
Exactly, the commissions were good, and then it was really distracting from my studies. But I thought, well, look, I need the money anyway, and it takes a bit of pressure off my mother, So I really sort of ran out of steam with my academic studies, and then it came to the point where either I kind of retake the whole first year of the business studies course, or go out to work, and I went to work. So I got a job with a tour operator. My brother-in-law got me a job. I mean, I probably could have got one myself, but I just really wasn't.
It is who you know, isn't it?
Exactly. And I kind of figured at that stage I want to work abroad. I found the idea of working as a rep the best of both worlds, because you could work abroad and you get paid and you get somewhere to live, because they
and you learn the language, maybe.
Well, yeah, and I spoke a bit of Spanish, and I expected that would be the best. I thought that would be the best kind of destination, so I could pick and choose where I go. It didn't work out that way. The travel company I worked for, I managed to manoeuvre my way into the overseas department, which I didn't appreciate at first. It's very separate from the UK side, so I had to leave and then rejoin the overseas department, and I was set to go to Spain in the beginning of the season. So this was sort of late spring.
What year was this?
1979.
Roughly. Okay.
And I was thinking about, am I going to Ibiza? Am I going to Mallorca? Or where am I going in Spain? And they wouldn't tell me. And when they phoned me up and told me where I'm going, they told me I'm going to Romania.
And you went, oh God, where's that?
Well, yeah, I actually did not have too much of an idea where it was, other than the fact that it was in Eastern Europe behind the Iron Curtain. And I also knew that it was a huge new tourism program for the company, which I had actually worked in the reservations department before selling, so I knew it was selling well, but when I was selling it, I had no idea I would be actually going there. So I ended up flying out to Constanza Airport from Gatwick Airport on the beginning of May 1979. No idea what to expect.
Would that be Laker Airways?
Oh no, these were charter.
Thompson's?
No, these were charter flights from Romanian Airlines, so Tarom. But it was, they had a whole charter kind of service, and there were other tour operators going then. Laker Airways was going at the time, Intersun was going, and these were all sort of very big names in the 70s. And of course, I arrived in the middle of the night. It was pretty much abandoned, very much a military airport. And I was corralled onto a coach and with a few other lost souls who were working with me, and we ended up in a resort which couldn't quite work out whether it was actually a stage setting or a resort, because there were no shops, there were no everything was just about opened, and it was all very bizarre. And I spent then 2 weeks later the tourists started coming out, or 10 days. And it was quite tricky. It was very difficult because there were no real facilities for these holidaymakers at the time.
Wasn't it by a lake?
There's a lake. It was in a resort called Mamaia, which was actually a sort of an anagram of Miami. And they built it to look like Miami, but it couldn't have been in further away from there, because communist times, there were no, there was no commercialism. So, you didn't have all the infrastructure for tourism. They just put the hotels there, and because they had a pretty short but nice summer between May and September, climate-wise, people went, and it was very, very cheap. I mean, we're talking about a holiday at the time for £99 for 2 weeks, and it was.
What was the food like?
Terrible. Awful. I mean,
what did they give you to eat?
Well, Romanian food is fantastic. I love Romanian food, but the budget that they put in front of they worked on for food for the tourists was so small. They really had little bits of beef and mashed potato, and it was just awful. It really was.
Did you get complaints?
Difficult. Oh, complaints like you can't believe. It became almost humorous in the end, although it was not at the time. And this was kind of one of those things where, getting back to humour, if you didn't laugh, you'd cry. And the tourists were complaining, the holidaymakers were complaining.
Well, you get what you pay for if they only paid £99.
Well, yes, that's one.
And that included the flight.
Yes. But it went up to 150, maybe £200 in high season. But nonetheless, it was still one of the cheapest places to go on holiday. And because there was nothing to do, they were in the resorts. Really, if the weather was bad, you'd had it, because there was no entertainment places.
Did you start comedy there?
I didn't do anything comedy there. I was too busy trying to keep things from blowing up, so stopping putting out fires. But there was no, there was no facilities, and there was no kind of, diversions. I mean, we put things on. We put on bingo for clients when the weather was bad, and that was kind of.
So these would have been working class people. Sounds to me.
I think there were a lot of people with perhaps left-wing leaning politically, because that at the time there was trade union movements had holiday companies, and that was the place they were taking people. But they did a lot of excursions, so you could fly to Cairo for the day from there as an excursion. We were selling excursions and so forth, and Athens, Istanbul.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So a lot of people just taking these trips to get out and using it
to get out.
Yeah,
and it was the Black Sea, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it worked. It worked. Anyone who came along to do the excursions, that worked for them.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we'll continue in part 3. Thank you very much, Malcolm.